I'm Soundkeeper Terry Backer, and this is a Long Island Soundkeeper update. We will be updating videos here, short videos, about issues of the work of Soundkeeper, the issues around Long Island Sound, biological, cultural, historical, and uses, and our work to preserve and protect those. Today, we've been receiving a lot of calls at the Soundkeeper office asking why are there so many blue crabs around. Historically, there seems to be a lot more Atlantic blue crabs here than we've seen in many, many decades. But first, let me introduce you to the subject matter. Here it is. This is the Atlantic blue crab, or by its scientific name, Callignectius. Callignectius, forgive my pronunciation of the Greek, literally means beautiful swimmer. And this is a beautiful swimmer. There's another part to the name, Spatus, which is a Latin term which means savory. Thus, the much sought after blue crab meat. We wanted to talk today about why we think there is a large, successful breeding population of blue crabs here in the waters of Long Island Sound. Callignectius has a range from Nova Scotia all the way through the Gulf of Mexico. They tend to be more plentiful in the warmer waters, more warm water adapted animals. Here in Long Island Sound, we have one of the largest ranges of water temperature in the world, from being very hot in the summer to being frozen in the winter. When I was a kid, there were quite a few of these guys around, and we used to go fishing for them with a chicken gizzard on a string and a dip net, lure them near shore and dip them up. But there are many calls as to why are there so many of these. We haven't seen this many in a very, very, very long time, if we have ever seen this many. To be quite frank with you, I grew up on an oyster boat, lobster boat. I have never seen as many blue crabs as I'm seeing this year. So we'll get on more with Callignectius. We're going to get into the birds and bee issues of the reproductive practices and cycle of the Atlantic blue crab, and then a hypothesis that we have formulated here at Soundkeeper as to why there are there's been such successful recruitment in so many blue crabs, which the likes of which we haven't seen. So we're going to go on to the birds and bees portion of this at another location and see if we can catch a few more out there. As promised, we're moving on to the R-rated piece of this discussion on the blue crab population apparent boom here in the harbors of Long Island Sound, and our best theory on why. I will now introduce you to this female crab. As a child, we were taught to distinguish the male from female by virtue of using our national monuments to tell. That wasn't a great point of interest. I come from a family of lobstermen. Blue crabs were not a big interest, but you know, they were here, and we saw them and we caught them. Here I have in my hand a female crab, and if you can look on her underside, on the belly, the apron underneath her is in the form of what might be akin to the Capitol dome of our national capital. This is a female. She has her red tips. That's a female, beautiful swimmer. Now let me look in the bucket and see if we can find Mr. Jimmy. Okay, here is a male blue crab. When I first scooped him up, he was cradling another crab underneath, and we'll talk about that. But you can distinguish the male blue crab, again, by looking at the underside. And here you see something that resembles the Washington Monument underneath this crab. So that would be a male crab. When I scooped this guy off the piling, he had a small female cradled underneath him, which is called a pre-copulatory embrace. Kind of like a night at the drive-in, I guess, from days gone by. But what that means is the male blue crab will scoop up the small female blue crabs early on and wait for them to shed or become soft. Like most extraskeletal creatures, particularly lobsters, they will shed their hard shell and they will emerge in a new form of being soft. You've heard of soft-shell crabs. There's also soft-shell lobsters. The male will scoop her up and hold her. Could be 2, 3, 4, 7 days in this pre-copulatory embrace, waiting until that she becomes soft. At that point, the mating would begin, and she would be again released on the bottom, and he would hang around and protect her. That's part of the process. You cannot have a population boom of blue crabs without that activity going on, and hopefully I'll be able to scoop up another couple in the pre-copulatory embrace. So that is some interesting things about the blue crab population that you may be looking around. You might want to identify them that way. I would now like to tender my thoughts as to why we're seeing a big population growth in blue crabs in our harbors. When I was a kid, there certainly were blue crabs here, but in my lifetime, and spent entirely on this water, I have never seen so many. And I think there are some explainable reasons for this. One is the waters of Long Island Sound certainly have warmed over the last 30 years. That's not in debate. Yet blue crabs range from Nova Scotia all the way to the Gulf of Mexico. But we do have a little warmer water, and we know that blue crabs, being a little bit more warm water adapted animal, do better or seem to have larger populations in places like Chesapeake Bay, Delaware Bay, further south where I stand today. When wasn't that long ago when the nearshore waters here teemed with what most people would refer to as minnows. I mean, the water boiled with them, whether they were cunner, mummy chugs, silver sides, and other small fish. And those small fish are predators, and they would eat small infant blue crabs, blue crab larvae, and for some reason unknown to me, although I do suspect, an environmental component. They are just not here in the population they were, so the number of predators and the predation on the blue crab population during the reproductive cycle is depressed. There's no doubt about that. There's also no doubt that the water is warmer and may be becoming more hospitable for large populations of blue crabs. So that's my hypothesis as to why these large populations are growing here. I would encourage anyone to go out, walk the docks, walk the piles, and you will see the blue crabs. They like to ride up the piles. Piles an ecosystem, and there's a lot of stuff, barnacles, algae, small critters living in there. It's a great place for blue crabs to essentially graze. And if you go looking around right now here in the early part of September, you are guaranteed to find some of them. You can scoop them up, and you can identify the males from the females. You may find a male crab cradling a small she crab in a soft state underneath her in what's the pre-copulatory embrace. So this is what I think is going on in Long Island Sound. But we need to ask some questions about where are the large populations of these small fish. My good friend Dick Harris and Pete Fraboni have been doing fish surveys here for many, many years, and they certainly would attest to the fact that these fish populations I spoke of before are depressed. And why are they depressed? Why are they gone? Endocrine disruptors, water temperature, we don't know right now, but it's another thing to look into. But we're going to have a little more fun with our friends, the beautiful swimmers, and we're going to be moving on to another site.